All right, so the description of what we said we're going to talk about is Aviyan Asa. So the description of Aviyan Asa in Divrei Yamim extend about 4 chapters, right? Both of them in Melachim Bet are given together 1 chapter, really. Intimately talking about the Israel kings back and forth. So, obviously we're... Okay. Yeah, so let's just have this up here. Now, we know what's happening now, right? There's a in Yehuda, that's again, since we're talking about Divrei Yamim, that's what Divrei Yamim is concerned. In Yehuda, there's a steady decline. There's a steady decline spiritually, as well as... So there's a steady spiritual decline, as well as we'll see in wars, right? So Rehavam, we're told, is during his time, and Melachim really gives us a sharper critique, right? Is Avodah Zarah is rampant. During Aviyah, Avodah Zarah is still rampant, and of course, Asa represents the going back to Avodat Hashem. By the time you get here, also just the idea in here, I'll flip to Melachim Aleph because it's just easier because the psukim are closer together, so it's just easier to turn pages, right? So in Yod Dalid. למד ומלחמה הייתה בין רחבעם ובין ירבעם כל הימים. In tet vav vav ומלחמה הייתה בין רחבעם ובין ירבעם כל ימי חייו. And in tet vav yod vav ומלחמה הייתה בין עשה ובין באשה מלך ישראל כל ימיהם. That pretty much tells you what's going on here. Milhama, right? There's a lot of milhamot. There is no, and we're going to describe, and Divrei, well, Melachim really doesn't describe the wars, except the one with Basha a little bit. Divrei Yamim goes at great length to describe these battles and these wars. So again, and just one other piece of information, just to set out the information. I thought to make a copy of this chart's all over the place to make a copy of a chart, but I didn't, so let's just imagine this, right? Let's just keep the chart here. Rehavam, he is molech, right, for 18 years, right? Aviyah for how many years? Right, you just read it, right? How many years does Aviyah rule? Okay. No, you just read it? Yeah. Perik Yud Gima. Shalosh Shanim Malach Yerushalayim. Okay? So there's 3 years, and Asa rules for, this is a big one. 41. So for a total of 24? No, 18, 3, and 41? 62. Okay, let's go back to Yerav'am ben Nevat rules for how many years? 22. Right? What did you say? 22. His son Nadav rules for how many years? 2. Killed. Basha rules for how many years?
24.
Right? Good.
You're back.
Oh, okay.
I had to make it like I didn't know, so they thought I was remembering.
Everything in colors.
Oh my gosh. You'd think after all these years of teaching high school, I'd figure it out. Okay. And then Ela ben Basha, after 2 years, is killed by Zimri. Zimri 7 days. Tivni 5 years, and Omri 12 years. Okay. Now, if we think about it, the three kings in Yehuda have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if we add 22 and 2 is 4, 48, 50, skip Zimri, and, 67 years for the 7 kings that are going to have comparable time in Yehuda, right, at this point. So really, although Yeravam lives into 3 kings of Yehuda, Asa really watches about 6 kings come and go. So we're going to see that there is turmoil, a certain level of turmoil in Yisrael, and Asa at least brings a certain level of stability. So if we can have that picture of kings on one side and other kings on the other side, that'll also help us give a bit of a rekav, an introduction to what's going on. So again, you have definitely a lack of stability in Israel. Just by the way, if you go to, even though this is the end of what we're going to talk about, if you go to Divrei Yamim, Tet Vav, Tet, the Navi explicitly says that this might have an effect, right? And this starts, ויקפוץ את כל יהודה ובנימין והגרים עמהם מאפרים ומנשה ומשמעון כי נפלו אליו מישראל לרוב בראותם כי אדוני אלוהיו עמו. This is during the time of Asa. There's a lot of people that emigrate from this chaotic Israel, certainly during the Asa period, which seems to have a stability, that emigrate to Yehuda. And we're going to see that probably causes a certain consternation on the part of Baasha, and to do what he does, and maybe that starts even the war. So this should give us a little bit of a background as to what's going on, right? Stable Yehuda and stable Yisrael. Certainly that's the picture that the Yamim is printing, and even Melachim.
Stable Israel?
Unstable Yisrael, stable Yehuda. Right? Civil war between the two. They're always at war. In the 3 kings that we're up to now, Rehavam, Aviyah, and Asa, they're always at war at their sister king. There's no period of peace between them, although in Asa there's some period of a lack of war, which we'll talk about. And, at least in Yehuda, we have a religious deterioration under Rehavam and under Aviyah, his son, and a religious revival under Asa. So that's to paint the background, to paint the story. Okay? And that's the background that you get between Melachim and Divrei Yamim. Now, when we start with Aviyah, there's some interesting things going on. Because in Aviyah, I'm assuming everyone read Perek Yud Gimel and Divrei Yamim. If not, let me know, because I'm going to make that assumption. But what I'd like you to read for a minute, with that Perek Yud Gimel Divrei Yamim back, is the first 8 Perakim of Perek Tetvav in Melachim Aleph. Tetvav, yeah. Right? So, really, there's a lot of questions left in Melachim. There was milchama between Aviyam and Yeravam. We know about it, but not told anything about the war. He dies after 3 years. We wonder why. We're not told why. Seems to be a short-lived thing. And he's just, all we're told is that he was an Oved Avodah Zarah. That's it. All we're told about him is that he was Oved Avodah Zarah. And that's really, and if you remind yourself of Sefer Melachim in general, that's the point of Melachim. Melachim gets angry. Melachim has a unforgiving, harsh judgment about the kings who deviate from the path of David HaMelech, right? The path of Avodat Hashem. And they don't care who it is, right? He was Oved Avodah Zarah, and that's all that cares about, and we move on. Now, if you remember, now that's 8 short, uneventful, quick, terse psukim, somewhat descriptive of what he did. There's no event. There's nothing unique about here, and we move on, and we just know that there were wars. You move to Divrei Yamim, and you remember what? Well, what's missing in Divrei Yamim? Right? And this is funny. Even though we know Divrei Yamim, they want to glorify, as we said, the Malchei Yehuda, very nice. They usually don't. And we're going to see that even Divrei Yamim doesn't mix words when it comes to Avodah Zarah. If the person was Oved Avodah Zarah, Divrei Yamim is tough on them. But we don't have any idea. There's no concept of this Avodah Zarah at all. Right? We're not told. And Adrabah. He comes and he goes to war, but we are told about this, his war against Yeravam. And we get this long-winded speech, right? We get this very long-winded speech about why he's going to war, right? And he tells us from Perek Daled, and he gets right, Vayakom Aviyam al Ahad Smarim Asher Bar Ephraim. Listen, Yeravam and Kol Yisrael, you left David and you left, you're all Rekim Ubnei Belial, and you're going against Mamlechet Hashem, and we are following Hashem, and we're tzaddikim, and we're great, and we're unbelievable, and how could you can't fight against God, right? Ki lo tatzlichu. 8 psukim or 9 psukim really of this long-winded speech. And then what happens? Yeravam starts to win the war with an ambush. And they cry out to God, and God saves them, and they win the war. And then what happens? They kill 500,000 people. Right? Okay. And there's one question, which we'll get to. Right? V'lo atzad koach Yeravam od bimei Aviyahu v'yigefehu Adonai v'yamut. Right? Yeravam had no koach to fight against Aviyah anymore. And not only that, God gave him a plague and killed him. Right? Which is problematic. Is that true?
It doesn't add up.
Doesn't add up. The numbers don't add up. He's 2 years into Asa.
It doesn't say during the time of the
Okay, good. Right. Right, but it certainly sounds like it, but the numbers really don't add up, and it's explicit, right, that what? That Yeravam lives 2 years into the Malchut of Asa. Because Shnasim li Yeravam, Melech Yisrael, Malach Asa, Melech Yehuda. In the 20th year of Yeravam, Asa, Melech Yehuda. And we're told that V'nadav ben Yeravam Malach Yisrael b'shnat 2 la'asa Melech Yehuda. So this thing in you that doesn't fit. The numbers don't add up. So let's think about that. Think about the 2 stories. two radically different stories. And we can say, of course, the standard answer, right? Divrei Yamim likes to glorify Melchei Yehuda, and Melachim is not doing that, and therefore he avoids the Avodah Zarah. But we still need to understand a little bit about this whole lengthy discussion of the war and what's going on, right? And okay, I mean, remember, we always said that, Divrei Yamim is written in the times of the Beit HaMikdash, in Shivat Zion, and Divrei Yamim is a Second Temple book, and therefore it's to glorify Malchut Yehuda, because he wants it to come back, and therefore the grandiose Divrei Yamim, it's very important that Malchut Yehuda is seen as the legitimate Malchut, and the lost Malchut Yisrael is seen as an illegitimate Malchut, right? Yehuda is the legitimate one, and so therefore the speech of Abiyah against Yeravam is important because you left, you deviated, right? And therefore, okay. Now, by the way, in both books we have this description of his mother. It's just a little different mother. We're going to come back to this woman in a little bit. Is it Michai? Right here, it's in Melachim. We're told it's.
Ma'acha.
What?
Ma'acha bat Abishalom.
Ma'acha bat Abishalom. And here we're told it's Ma'acha bat
Michayahu bat Uriah.
Bat Uriah. Right? We'll see that this woman's going to come back. We're going to see her a little bit in a few minutes. So, very interesting. We have these two aspects of the story: the Melachim of Avodah Zarah, and this fighter for God against and the cry out to God in the war against the illegitimate Yeravam. And also he captures Vayilkod mimenu arim et Bet El vet benoteha. Now he captures Bet El. What tells us? What do we know about Bet El? Huh?
It's not that far north.
No, what's important about Bet El?
Egel.
Egel. That's where Yeravam puts the Egel. So if he's capturing that, that's an interesting thing. We want to keep that in mind. Okay? So let's keep those 2 points. And now I want to go to Hazal. Hazal says something very interesting about these two stories. And I think they really merge them together. In Bereshit Rabbah, it's also Yerushalmi, in Yirot. Hadu dichtiv. Velo atzar koach Yeravam od bimei Aviyah, this is in Bereshit Rabbah, vayigefeu Adonai v'yamot. Amar Rabbi Shmuel, ma at savur sheyeravam nigaf? You think it was vayigefeu was going on Yeravam? V'halo lo nigaf ela Aviyah. Aviyah was nigaf. Aviyah was killed by God, not Yeravam. Sort of makes sense because right, obviously it's a midrash. It's not. But what are Hazal looking at? Hazal looking at the numbers. The numbers don't make sense on both sides. One in the hand, Aviyah dies after 3 years. Why? We're not told why. Pshat. And Yeravam doesn't die here. He's got 2 more years to live after Aviyah dies. So say Hazal, who died? It was Aviyah. And here's what's interesting. There's about many different opinions, and I'm going to read to you. We're going to read through this. Rabbi Abba bar Kana amar al yedei she'avir hakarat penehem shel Yisrael. Tichtiv hakarat penehem antabam. Right? Not that he killed, but he killed with such ferocity. And they go on. Rabbi Levi amar al yedei she'amid alehem shom l'shlosh shemim al shel kalkalat zuratai. He didn't allow them to be buried. And he made Shomrim to make sure that they would not be buried until their bodies were so deformed. And why? So he brings Ditnan and Medim Apartzu Panim Imhotem Avapishish Masimum Govgadab, Behem Medim El Shoshaimim. We can only recognize the body for 3 days. After that, there's no edut as to who it is. עליהם הוא אומר, עצמו לי אלמנותיו מכל ימים. Many almanot. And the Mepharshim, you know what he was doing? Why was he doing this? Why did he not let them die for 3 days? You know what? He wanted to make sure that what? That the woman would stay agunot. And if they would stay agunot, they can never remarry. If they don't remarry, no more little kids. If no more little kids, no more enemies for Aviyah. That's why Aviyah was killed. Okay? So that's the second reason. Agunot, stop procreation Yisrael, destroy the population of your enemy country through a halachic destruction. Right? A little interesting. That's why he was killed. Rabbi Yohanan v'Resh Lakish v'Rabbanan. Another 3 opinions. Rabbi Yohanan omer al shibiza la'ahya shiloni. Made fun of Ahya Shiloni. Why? Because he says, v'imachem anashim b'rekim b'nei Belial. You delegitimized Malchut Yisrael. Well, wait a second. Malchut Yisrael was started by Ahya Shiloni and Navi Hashem. So that's not acceptable. Karal Ahya Shiloni Belial. So he got killed. Resh Lakish Amar al shahisedam barabim shneimar va'atem hamon rabi machem egle zahav asher asa lachem yirav'am lelohim. Right? What happens? He belittled Yeravam, and he embarrassed them in public. Right? Okay. Now, so you want to have your big kanai? So we'll have to see. He's such a kanai? That leads into the next one. You say, for the egel. V'Rabbanan amre al Shabbat avodat kochavim liyado velo bitela. שנאמר וירדוף אחריה וילכוד מן הערים את בית אל ואת בנותיה. Right? He conquered בית אל. Right? And that's דברי הימים. וכתיב. And now he goes to Melachim Aleph. And we know what was in Melachim Aleph in Beit El. פריד דברים כמה חומר, ומה עם מלך על ידי שהונה מלך כמוהו, אנשר כתוב וניגב, הדיוט שהוא מונה הדיוט, על אחת כמה חמר. Okay, that's enough. Gets back to the point of Bereshit Rabbah. Okay. So, another thing is you embarrassed him, and then the last point is you captured the Avodah Zarah, and you didn't seem to do anything with it. So what does the Midrash do? The Midrash is grappling, and quotes, it's flipping from Lachim to Divrei Yamin. So, it seems to indicate something. Melachim tells us about Avodah Zarah. Divrei Yamim tells us about what? About military battles and military victories. And then, what does this Midrash do? It seems to be connecting both Sfarim. How? By very simply pointing out. First of all, pointing out the hint of Avodah Zarah and Divrei Yamim. And that's why he died, because he captured Beit El and he didn't remove the Avodah Zarah. And that fits clearly what we see in Melachim, that he was Oved Avodah Zarah. And it looks at Aviyah as some form of a hypocrite. You're insulting Yeravam, but you were no better. Right? Yeah, of course, he was Oved Avodah Zarah. It's true. Yeravam was not Tzaddik, but you're insulting it. You're delegitimizing the Malchut as if you're legitimate. Well, what makes you legitimate? Just the fact that you're David's grandson? Or David's great-grandson? That's not going to make you legitimate. Avodat Hashem has to make you legitimate. And you didn't do it. So you delegitimized him, but you're in fact, that was the point. The Midrash references who Ahya Shiloni. Ahya Shiloni prophesied what? The Malchut of Yeravam because of the sins of the Malchei Yehuda. So by you claiming that there's no validity to Malchut Yisrael, you're delegitimizing the Avodah of Ahya Shiloni. Why? If you were tzaddik, maybe they would be. But you're an Oved Avodah Zarah, so of course there is a legitimate reason why Malchut Yisrael exists. And that was the whole point of Ahya Shiloni. So really what this Midrash is doing continuously is bringing in, so to speak, a understanding, really, within Divrei Yamim of the underpinnings of Avodah Zarah, and even more of a hypocritical speech. You can imagine Hazal like rolling their eyes when they read this. Oh, give me a break. Like, well, you something. What's the matter with you? Hashem, and this, and we're with, and we're going, and you left Hashem, and you're B'nai B'lial. B'nai B'lial. Right? So, in a certain sense, that this Midrash and Midrash Rabbah is connecting the dots, so to speak, between the two stories. Okay? Yeah.
It's kind of they don't actually bring the pasuk in Melachim Layas Harag Kechol.
Right, they don't bring. That's funny. It's true. They never quote that. They don't just quote the Mefurash pasuk Layas Harag. Rather, they're only using Divrei Yamim for Yve'astam Avodah Zarah. This Midrash never actually relies on Melachim to point out that there was Avodah Zarah. Rather, they're relying on what? On the indications in Divrei Yamim for the Avodah Zarah. Because I think they want to see within the fabric of Divrei Yamim that element of Melachim, that Avodah Zarah. They're proving the Avodah Zarah. What do you have to go prove it for?
No.
So Avodah Zarah. Why? Because he captured Betel, that we know. Go back to Melachim. That's where Yeravam put the Avodah Zarah. Just don't put Melachim and say it was on Avodah Zarah.
Yeah.
That's why Vayiga. No, they don't do that. They don't rely on that. Hazal aren't relying on that. They're seeing the hint of the Avodah Zarah in Divrei Yamim. And Divrei Yamim has to do it very delicately, right? Has to do it more delicately than does Melachim, who's like, you bad king, good king, bad king, good king, right? You don't need to guess about who's good and who's bad when you read Melachim. It tells you. The first thing it tells you. Bad guy, good guy, bad guy. That's what they say, right? That's all they say. Divrei Yamim, a little more subtle, right? You have to see it, and Hazal see within Divrei Yamim the we'll call the badness of Aviyah, the excessive murder, by far, excessive cruelty, right? To Yisrael, and that's something that even the good kings of Malchei Yehuda, right, are going to be accused of. Kol Sheken, this one. And the Divrei Yamim goes through this lengthy speech. And it's really, Hazal are not taking this speech so seriously. Okay, I want to move now on to the next. If we look at Melachim, we're talking about the end of this chapter, and in Divrei Yamim we have 3 large chapters. You finished them, right? You dealt Tetvav and Tetzayin. What's today's period? Today's Tetvav? Okay, that's okay because Tetzayin is short. Not so short, right? And it really finishes Asa, right? It finishes Asa, and it starts to show Asa in not the greatest light. Okay? Now, let's talk about Asa. So Asa in Sefer Melachim, if we remember, we're really only told one thing about Asa. We're told he's a good guy. 41 years. Removes all the Avodah Zarah. Gets rid of his, what we'll call his grandmother, really. Says Immo, right? And gets rid of her Avodah Zarah. Right? Right? And then he gets rid of all these things, this whole revolution. And he has a war with Basha. And what happens? How does he deal with that war of Basha? He hires Ben Hadad to do his battle for him. And that's that. And then Basha stops building this Ramah, this thing that was a threatening thing against him. And but Asa takes apart that whole story. Okay? That's it. That's the whole Asa thing. What's missing here, interestingly enough? Asa is a good guy here. And what's missing? Well, we don't really have any judgment about whether the way he fought the war was good or not. Was it right or not? And if you remember, one time I gave a class on Melachim at the Siyum in Sefer Melachim, and I said that Melachim deals in extremities. You're either all good or all bad. While it's true that Divrei Yamim is trying to paint an idyllic picture of Malchei Yehuda, but there is a more complexity also to it in Divrei Yamim. Almost nobody in Divrei Yamim is either all good or all bad. Think about it. Go through every single king. Right, Shlomo. Right, Shlomo has we have an ideal picture of David and Shlomo. That's true. But after that, nobody's either good or bad. Right? Asa, we'll see, is critiqued. Hezkiah in Divrei Yamim is critiqued. Yoshiyah in Divrei Yamim is critiqued. The greatest kings, they're not critiqued in Melachim. Right? And conversely, the bad guys are given a pass. Menashe is given a pass. Right? Teshubah, whatever it is. Melachim is extremity. You're either bad or good. It's black or white. There's no gray. Divrei Yamim is always gray. There's always a grayness to Divrei Yamim. Right? There was nobody purely great. There's nobody purely evil. And so Asa, we're taught a lot about Asa in Divrei Yamim. That's not in Melachim. Right? So what's some of the things that we're taught about Asa? Right? Right? What is it? So Asa has in Divrei Yamim, right? The removal of Avodah Zarah, that's in both books the same, right? Right? The only difference might be that there's this this renewal of the Birit, but nevertheless, this idea of the removal of the Avodah Zarah and all of the Mizbechot and all of that, and the mother's Mifletzit, that's all gone. Or the grandmother's Mifletzit, that's all gone, removing her from her important position, and her Avodah Zarah, she's thrown out. That's all in both places. That, what we'll call that religious revival. But, what's in Divrei Yamim, I mean, we're dealing with 3 chapters now, as opposed to less than 20 psukim. First of all, his military victories. A good king in Divrei Yamim, certainly a good king in Yehuda, has to have a reward. Right? You can't just have a guy who's good. Right? So he gets a reward. What is he? He has, of course, we have this big battle with the Kushim. Zerah HaKushi. Right? And they come with over 1 million soldiers. Elif, right? They come with over 1 million soldiers, and they capture all of these cities from the Kushim. And he has the Navi comes and continues, Azariah ben Oded, Hayta lav ruach Elokim, and he tells him, continue, go, and you're changing, there was a lot of Yisrael, and Asa hears this, and he continues to further go through all of this, and he has, right, these ideas, this military thing, and by the way, the dates are a little difficult. If you look at Radak, what's this 15th year business? And they have this religious revival in his 15th year, and everything's great. And then, right, in the 36th year of Malchut Asa, you have the Milhama with Basha. Now again, we have a problem with the numbers, right? Because Basha dies in the 26th year of Asa in Melachim. So how does he have a war in this 36th year? So Radak's answer is, right? Radak's answer is like this, that it's the 36th year. Either you want to say that Melachim goes from Tchilat Milchamotav, and the 10 years that Shakita Aretz are not counted, right? And therefore, the Basha lasts longer. The Mitzudot has a different answer. The Mitzudot wants to say, based on the Seder Olam, that the Milchama with Basha was Bishnat Sheshesrei La'asa, not 36, and the 36th year is starting all the way back from the split, the death of Shlomo. When there's 36 years, talking about the death of Shlomo. So what do you have to go back? You subtract 20 years, because 17 for Rehavam and 3 for Aviyah. So there's 20 years before Asa rises. So the 36th year is really in the 16th year of Asa. Okay, so that's that's how they solve the numbers, right? So you have the Zerach HaKushi, and then you have the war with Basha. Now, the war with Basha is caused by what? Because Basha builds this Rama. Now, he builds and it couldn't be considered an act of war. It's sort of like closing the border. Nobody can go in, nobody can go out. It prevents. It's the Navi says it prevented Asa himself from going back and forth, right? Here, 17. Yeah, Tetvav Yudzayin Divrei Yamim. Yeah. Losaro. No, it's Tetzayin. Mahila. Tetvav. I'm sorry, it was in Melachim Mechimana. וירא השם את ישראל יהודה ויבן את הרמה לבלתי יוצא ובא לעשה מלך יהודה. Right? The Asa should come, and we already know from Divrei Yamim Tet Vav Tet that a lot of people were coming, were emigrating, because the turmoil at this point in Yisrael was causing people to move to Yehuda. So he builds a Ramah. That Asa considers an act of war, and he reacts, and what does he do? He hires Ben Hadad. Okay? And they have this war. And then what happens? Then what are we told? In both books, what's the last thing we're told about this great king Asa? Right? That he had, Melachim tells us, Rak le'ed ziknato hala et raglav. He had a foot ailment. That's what it was about. He had a foot ailment. Now, people wonder, what do I care? What do I want to care about his foot ailment? Right? So, everyone's trying to figure out, the Mefarshim want to try and figure out, what happened to Asa's feet? Right? What's going on here? Why was his feet hurting at the end of his life? What happened here? Why does that, and why do I have to know that? Right? So, they look at it, and some of them, they say, this is obviously some form of onish that we have to know. So, he says, Rabbi says, the sin, right? והחשוב שזאת הסיבה חלת רגליו ליציקתו, כי הוא שלח זל בן הדד. The sin was that he went and he was sholeach the Ben Hadad. כאילו לא היה רגליים ללכת במלחמה. Right, he didn't trust Hashem. Hashem gave him all these victories against Zerach HaKushi. Now what? You didn't have enough feet to fight in the war. You didn't have enough strength. That's the Rabbi. You weren't strong enough. Your feet got hurt. That's the Rabbi.
Did you spend money from Azrat Bet Hashem?
What?
Did
Because he spent the money for much better.
He didn't say that. He just says, "Shezam b'mash shalach ben Hadad milcharam v'lo batach b'Hashem." He didn't say that he emptied the coffers of the Beit HaMikdash. He just says that it was not a b'tach Hashem, and he didn't show strength. Hazal in Sotah say, says because, you know what was it? Because he drafted Talmidei Hachamim. What are they saying? Hazal in Sotah Daf Yud say he drafted Talmidei Hachamim. What do you mean he drafted Talmidei Hachamim? He drafted Talmidei Hachamim, meaning they say it was a Milchemet Reshut. And he shouldn't have drafted Talmidei Hachamim because, you know what? That's only in a Milchemet Mitzvah, and he treated it like a Milchemet Mitzvah, and it was a Milchemet Reshut. Meaning what? Meaning he was, I think what Chazal is saying, there was excess zeal in his battle. Similar to Aviyan. In other words, too much excess zeal on Asa. Now, let's go to Divrei HaYamim. Divrei HaYamim pretty much explicitly tells us, when it talks about his foot ailment, what happened. They add a fact. Now, Divrei HaYamim tells us two things. They have no point. In Divrei HaYamim, there's 2 points missing. One, that's missing in Melachim. One, the Navi, after Asa hires Ben Hadad, the Navi comes and yells at him. You dip, he tells him. Had you not hired Ben Hadad, had you fought on your own, you would have beaten Baasha, and you know what you would have also done? You would have conquered Aram. But you, Tepesh, he yells at him. And now, how does Asa react? How we would expect the righteous Asa king to react? What should he do? Teshuvah, Hatati. You know what he does? And this is a very scary foreshadowing. What does he do to the Navi that rebukes him? This is crazy. This is Asa, the biggest Sadiq. He puts him in jail. And then, look at this. Look at this. This pasuk, when it talks about his foot ailment. ויחלה עשה בשנת 39 למלכותו ברגליו עד למעלה חוליו וגם בחוליו לא דרש את השם כי ברופאים. You know what he did? What do I need to know about his foot ailment? You know what Asa did when his foot hurt him? He called the doctor. So what does that mean? What is Divrei HaYamim saying, this midah keneged midayis? He called the doctor. Meaning that so the mashal for Ben Hadad. He wasn't Doresh Hashem. He shouldn't have called the doctor. He should have been Doresh Hashem. So Divrei HaYamim is looking at this foot ailment as what? And is indicative of the larger problem of what? Of Asa generals at the end. That he wasn't somech on Hashem. He was somech on the doctors, like he was somech on Ben Hadad, like the Navi in Divrei HaYamim is yelling at him for it. And you know what? In Divrei HaYamim, it's open. In Divrei HaYamim, the picture is clearer. Why is the picture clearer in Divrei HaYamim? The picture is clearer because in Divrei HaYamim, he has many Nevi'im speak to him. Doesn't happen in Melachim. After the Kushi victory, he has Nevi'im telling him, and the Nevi's name is called Oded, to encourage him to continue in his religious revival. And not only that, to trust in Hashem, and the victories are from Hashem. Then, when he sort of doesn't do that, and we're sort of blaming him for not doing that. In Melachim, we don't have a blame. Hey, from a gold Ben Hadad. What's he did a military? We're sort of blaming him because you already had a victory. As that Al-Bag said, you already had a victory. You already saw the Tshuva of Hashem against Crazy odds. Over 1 million soldiers. And you won a decisive victory. Because you cried out to Hashem. What happened now? So, Divrei Yamim puts Asa's actions in a much more negative light for two reasons. One, it sets up the previous battles that he won. That he shouldn't have done that. B, he's continuously spoken to by Nevi'im positively about what happened. And then, when he does the other thing with Ben Hadad, he's rebuked by the Nevi. Again, not in Melachim. And over there, of course, he puts him in jail. He doesn't listen. And we end, both book ends with the foot ailment. Just one difference. In Melachim, we're just told he had a foot ailment. We don't know if it's connected to anything. This doesn't have any connection to the Ben Hadad story. And clearly in Divrei Hayamim, the guy, remember, this is the king who the Navi says you relied on Ben Hadad. It's clear that when Divrei Hayamim says, and even here he didn't ask Hashem, but he relied on the doctors, it's clear what happened is that this is sort of this midah keneged midah for what? For the milhama with Ben Hadad in Divrei Hayamim.